Welcome to Business Unveiled, the podcast designed to help you thrive in the creative community. Here's your host, events and productivity consultant, Angela Profit.
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Business Unveiled. Expert tips and secrets from top creative industry professionals, where we take you behind the scenes of our past experiences in the creative industry and share with you what we have learned from them and how they have made us stronger. This podcast will help you grow a productive and profitable business to launch you into success within the creative industry. Today's podcast is brought to you by Collective 615, a luxury co-working community and space designed by women for women who desire to connect, collaborate, grow professionally and personally. The community is for women who desire a work environment that inspires and motivates them to elevate both professionally and personally. Collective 615 goal is to have a community of businesswomen who are at different places in their entrepreneurial journey. They offer a range of memberships to make it obtainable to invest in yourself and your brand. All programs are developed by creating diverse courses, speakers, and events that provide professional and personal development. If you're looking to collaborate, connect, and create with like-minded people, the women of Collective 615 believe in investing in you and your brand. If you're starting a business, growing your current one, or you're working from home or remotely and you need a place to work or to host workshops and events, visit collective615.com today. Hi, y'all. It's Angela, and I'm back for another episode of Business Unveiled. And I'm so excited about our guest today because they have such an amazing product and they just create amazing experiences. And I've heard about them through a friend of mine that I'm doing a major project with. And she's like, you've got to know these people. Like, they do the most amazing experiences all over the flippin' world, not just in the United States. And it's kind of like a little bit of a mystery. So you're going to want to listen up and learn how Jacob and Courtney Towe do it differently. They are the owners of DJ Jacob Co. And don't be fooled by just thinking, oh, they're a DJ company, because it is so much more. So Jacob, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Angela. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
It's awesome. When I first talked with you and Courtney, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, people need to know about this. And like, people need to hear about what you do, how you do it, the experience that you've created, because you've really gone outside of the box that some DJs either want to put themselves in or they don't know what they don't know. And so I'm hoping some of your just skills and how you have grown this thing that you guys are traveling the world and doing will inspire other people to know that, like, there's really no limits. So before we jump in and talk about where you're at today, like, what is your background? Like, how did you get into this creative wedding business space?
So how do you get to the level of being considered a creative? That's a pretty tough. That's a tall order. I think a lot of it boils down to people just being particular or maybe picky about stuff, and then they end up like defining their own path, and then people label them as a creative. But for me, it really came down to me going to a wedding 12 years ago, something like that. I'd never seen a DJ at a wedding. And so my expectations were pretty blank. I had no idea what to expect. So I went there and I'm kind of pumped. I'm like, he's going to start playing music, I guess. And then I guess we're going to start dancing. And then he played the YMCA 3 times in a row.
What?
And I was like, hold on a second, this can't be right. So I actually went up to the DJ and I was like, hey, I'm new here. I've never been to a wedding like this. Like, I don't think this is what they want. He was like, no, this is normal. And I was like, I can't believe this. I'll look the guy up. He's legit. Like, he's making a living doing this. And it was pretty clear to me that there is definite need in the market. Like there's a disconnect from creating, like you said, an experience at an event and what the DJ was doing. Whatever he was doing was not creating an experience. It was creating chaos. So my wife was like, you could do better than that. Because my background at that point was a sound engineer. And so I was used to running sound for thousands of people. In a room of like 60 people, this DJ was trying to make announcements, kind of like,
Oh my God.
I think everyone has some of those stories of DJs. I hear them a lot. I don't get to experience a lot of them because I never get invited to weddings that I'm not DJing, it seems like. But yeah, it was a huge eye opener. Like there's a need, and I love complexity. I love puzzles. I love challenges, and the wedding business is one of the most difficult challenges that one can try to attack. And so I was excited to go for it personally.
So you left that wedding and decided, like, I'm going to leave my sound engineering job and like start a DJ company. Is that kind of how it all went?
It was
down?
just about that fast. Like I was like, okay, I've had a lot of jobs, and as soon as they become like I've got as high as I can in that job, I quit and move on. Like once I've accomplished all the goals I can, I just move on. So it's weird. I have a weird personality like that, but I guess I'm kind of like that with the wedding business too. I guess when I get to a certain point where I've done some events at the highest challenges, the highest level, the most ridiculous events, then I'm like, okay, now what? We'll find a new challenge. Which is why I love creating the most ridiculous scenarios and experiences and try to do weddings on like a Friday on the East Coast and a Saturday on the West Coast and then Sunday back on the East Coast. Because it's a challenge. It's difficult. It's fun. I love it.
And it never gets boring.
That never gets boring, no.
What did your very first wedding that you DJ'd, do you remember how did you get that client?
So probably like anyone else, you could probably say the same thing. It was friends, and since I had an sound engineering mindset, my idea was like, I've got to make it sound good. I mean, really good. So I spent an exorbitant amount of money and went all in right up front, and it sounded amazing. And that was the idea. And then also had a huge music library because I was a musician. So I kind of had all the tools I needed to become a DJ. Just learning what song to play next has always been the challenge for any DJ early on. So yeah, it was interesting, but they're good friends of mine. They still are friends, and they're still like, every time I see them, they're like, yeah, we were your first wedding. They're so pumped about that. Like they tell people about that. I guess that's a good thing. So maybe everything went really well. It's hundreds and hundreds of weddings ago, so it's hard to remember every detail, but it was definitely a lot of fun. And to get those butterflies again and think back on that first wedding.
Yeah.
It's always crazy. New challenges now, but those butterflies aren't quite there like they used to be.
Yeah. So did you also incorporate other things, or did you just started with the music portion? And then at what point were you like, I'm going to grow this thing and I'm also going to incorporate other services to take this to the next level?
It's, for me, it's sound is more of an immersive thing. I want to feel it. I want to be tactile. I want to touch it. I want to sense it. And so playing music, I feel like I'm just directly at people. It needs to create an environment beyond just the ears. I want them to see the music. I want them to feel the music. And so that's really hard to do if you just put up two speakers and a turntable. It's kind of, I don't know, it's surreal for me. It's kind of deep for me, but it pushed me to want to do lighting and want to do like environmental projection and atmospheric effects and really create something that, like you said, and we pushed that on our website even, an experience. So it's hard. And if you've met some of my friends who've talked to you, which they have, it's been like, he just does, you just got to talk to him. Like, it's just, there's just things that they do. And with the stuff and the thing. And it's like when they're in the room, they get it. But when they leave, they're just like, I don't know what all I did, but it was just crazy. Stuff was happening. But all it is just when the songs are playing, creating an environment that it's more than just a wedding. We're really creating a time, a moment that you'll look back on. And I really share that with my couples too. I even introduce new songs sometimes for weddings, and I tell them that ahead of time, that I'll set aside certain songs for certain couples, a brand new song, and I'll play it at their wedding. So that way for the rest of their life, when they hear that song, they only think about that moment. They only think about their wedding. And it was like played at the perfect moment. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
So like it'll always draw them back to that. And I love doing stuff like that. And that's just the music side of it. Obviously, tailoring the lighting, an entire room to change and ebb and flow based on the music, based on soft or fast or slow or hard, whatever. All of it changes. So
That is awesome. So how, like after your first wedding, how did you start to find the perfect client that would just say, okay, Jacob and Courtney, like just rock the party and do what you do? Like, was it really that easy, or did you have to do, 100 before you could really prove yourself and then say to clients, like, let me do me and just trust me? Like, how long did it take you to like get to that point?
I did this really weird thing where I would tell couples I was going to do something, and then I did it. I think that's like totally lost in business. You're like, hey, I'll deliver this service, and then you just deliver that service in a way that's appreciated and genuine, and people are like, wow, your business will grow. I'm like, oh, that's the minimum standard in business. Seems like try, and then you'll grow, which is sad. But for me, I've never done like versions of myself or different packages or different levels. I've always been confused by that. Like some DJs will have like the diamond studded tiered wedding explosion package, and I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. So I just give all of my couples everything all the time. When they book me, it's just like, you get all of me. And so I've always done that early on. They would hire me, and I'm just like, I'm all in. Like however long your wedding is, whatever's happening, however many days, like locations, here's my price, and I'm all in. We're making it right. And it was just that under promising and over delivering for years built that reputation to where it's hard for other DJs to compete who are doing versions like that, because then it goes back on the couple. Well, they're not rich enough to get the best version of me, so I'm only going to give them, the bargain basement version. And that, to me, that's like, I don't know. If you want to grow a business and you love what you do, make it right. Do your very best every single time. And you can walk away and lay in bed at night and be like, that was a ridiculous party because I gave it my all.
Yeah. So when you say they get all of you, meaning like the sound, the music, the lighting, and for those people that are listening, I don't know. It's kind of like when people say, oh, that costs a lot of money. And it's like, well, clarify, like what's a lot of money to you? Because some people think, $100 is a lot of money, and some people think $100,000 is a lot of money. So from a lighting perspective, I feel like lighting is very much essential, at least for the events and the weddings that we do. You don't really have a choice. Like you're getting lighting.
Yeah.
And, there's different levels of your uplights and your LED lights and your pen spots and your washes, but you take it to a whole different level of incorporating all the projection mapping. And, you lightly mentioned it, but I really would love for you to talk and educate our listeners on what that means and like what the opportunities and the environment and the experience that it creates. It's so much more than just like uplights and washes and pin spots and gobos. So if you can just share.
It's tiering whatever level that particular venue needs or that particular client needs. For example, like I did the lighting for the Knot Gala one year up in New York at the New York Public Library, and I was doing all the lighting outside. and projection mapping on the front of the pillars on the outside, florals that were growing up the pillars. So we took CC New York, her design for the invitation, and then we projection mapped that out. So it was basically a flower that was on the invitation. We reverse engineered that so it looked like it was growing up the pillars of the library. So as guests are coming in, it's all lit, but the lighting matches the projection matches the invitations match the room, like it's all connected. But to be able to have, my wife and I, and that's it, to at the level of New York, the Knot Gala, full lighting, environmental projection, you have to really back up and assess the whole thing from the beginning. You have to build the machine that builds the machine. So I have to implement things that I can actually implement at the highest level. And that's where all the complication, the challenge, the engineering, the puzzle for me comes. Like I love that part of it. So to be able to do 150 light fixtures for $1 million wedding and full surround sound and host it and DJ it and do the after party and set it all up and break it all down by myself, that's crazy. It's people will just shake their head like, what in this guy's nuts. And I do that. And sometimes I'll do that in like 3 cities in a weekend at that level. And the reason I can do that is because of how I've built my whole setup and system and everything to where I can get the biggest bang for my buck. So I can create an environment very quickly and very easily on my end because I've only given my clients the very best, which means it has to be the very best for me and for them. It's kind of hard to explain because it's so different. So
Yeah,
like
so
if you the most generic thing, so if you Google DJ lighting, everything you will see, everything that comes up is wrong. All of it. Literally all of it. If you Google DJ speakers, all of those are wrong. I know some people are like, this guy's nuts. Like those are the most generic, easiest versions. And same thing in your business. If everyone else is doing it and it's the most obvious choice, that's not the choice. That's not the option. Don't do that. That is not the path to go. You have to find a way to where you're carving your own path, you're making your own way, and you're creating something that's totally unique to you. So you stand out so far beyond anyone else that people don't even know how to describe it. They don't even know how to explain it. How can one guy show up and do $1 million wedding? This doesn't make sense. But we've done it.
And do the lighting.
Yeah. And I'm controlling the lighting and controlling the projection and DJing all simultaneously. It's a tall order. And that's where I feel comfortable. That's the realm that I'm like, I'm kind of in the zone. It's not like a stretch for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It could, because it's like like you said, you're in your zone, you're doing what you're doing.
And that's whether you're doing cakes, invitations, your florals. Like if you just go on there and Google floral arrangements, don't do any of those, none of those. Like create something completely new. Like I did a wedding down in Sarasota a few months back, and this huge tree, I want to say bassa tree. This tree is looked like a big weeping willow. It was incredible. It was a gorgeous tree. It's at this preserved gardens. What the florists had done to create an arch for the ceremony was take roots from that particular type of tree and create an arch out of the root system. I'm like, this is amazing. Completely unique, different. And it was super quick and easy, but it was like totally stood out from anything I've ever seen.
That's so cool.
And it's totally different, right? And it's unique to them. Or another florist I saw, instead of doing bouquets for all of the all the flower girls and maids of honor, they did copper rings and then wrapped those in ivy. And so they just walked down with these like a foot rings, 1 foot wide. It was gorgeous, epic. It was so cool. And then they're able to like stack those in a cool way for the reception. Totally outside of the box. If you Google it, nothing will come up. Like that's the kind of stuff That takes a lot of research, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and creativity. And that's what I love to do, is create something that it takes so much research to do it in that way. But your business will thrive. That's the way to make it grow, especially in a luxury business that absolutely no one needs your service. It's not a need,
Right.
but everyone wants it. So you have to make it stand out. It's a completely luxury service from bottom to top, no matter what level you're on. I always find that funny that people think, no, I'm a luxury service. Well, we're all a luxury service.
Right.
It's not necessary.
Right. Like, 20 years ago, like, people didn't have planners, people didn't have designers, like, lighting didn't really kind of exist
No.
unless you're on a movie set.
Yeah.
And yeah, things have just transformed. Like, I'm just so glad I'm living now. I mean, there's no telling what's going to happen in 20 years, but it's just cool. Like, all of the opportunities. And it's like so many people get set in their ways of being comfortable, and they're not comfortable being uncomfortable. And so they're not risk takers. And then they either get left behind, or it's like you screaming and kicking to like get them to implement change. But how do you guys, like, I know that you have literally traveled all over the world and created these experiences with sound and music and lighting and projection mapping. And how do you guys do it? Like, do you pre-ship your equipment ahead of time and then you hop on a plane? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't drive everywhere, right?
You'd be surprised. We do have a tour bus, and if it's in the continental U.S., we drive, and if it's in Mexico or Canada, obviously, then we have services and approvals, and we're able to ship our stuff and not have them just seize it immediately, and also travel with it. We can actually check it on the plane. So we've gone through a lot of research, a lot of insurance filing, all that craziness you have to do to figure all this stuff out, so that you can show up and do full lighting design in Cancun, and then the next day be in California and DJ an after party, and then the next day be in Tampa and do full projection design and a wedding. And that's actually my schedule for a weekend this summer.
Which is nothing less like than I would expect.
It's ridiculous.
But
if it's physically possible, if it's humanly possible, then yeah, we do it and we go for it. And because we can, it's just the two of us. And again, we build the machine that builds the machine. What I mean by that is we only use lighting that's small enough to travel with, but is powerful enough to work at a luxury level, at a high-end level. And those, I can tell you, are very expensive. Each lighting fixture to be able to do that. So we only buy those because they're the best option for us. Like, we can only travel with speakers that are small enough to travel with, but powerful enough for 1,000 people. And those are like ridiculously expensive. So we have to buy those. So you have to build an ecosystem around you that allows you to push beyond the norm, so that you can get those high-end clients, so that you can get those luxury level clients. And it's not as stressful or crazy because you've built the system. You're planning and preparing yourself from the beginning for that. Like, we're always building our setup and our design, our website, everything to do a week-long, multi-million-dollar wedding in Dubai or whatever. Like, that's always been our goal, and our push is we want international, huge, high pressure. And so if anything else underneath that comes along, we're like, yeah, we got that, because that's one step to get to our goal. We set our goals so high that anything that comes along, we're like, yeah, not a problem. I think a lot of people don't set their goals high enough, which is why when some challenges come along, they just panic because they never really were planning on that happening to them, I guess.
so it's like, if you dream big, it can happen.
Like, really big.
Yeah. And dream really big. So where do you come up with these ideas? Like, I mean, do your clients bring you inspiration, Or do you go to conferences? Is it music videos? Like, where do you pull your inspiration from with all these, like, outlandish, amazing, over the top ideas?
I read a lot. That helps.
Okay.
I don't always work on weddings and go to conferences and speak to vendor people. I push my mind outside of that ecosystem. So I build my kids a treehouse, and I'm doing something with my hands, and I work on that. And then, you know what I could do? And working with my hands or building something, creating something helps me be creative in another area. And so I purposely build and purposely set out to remodel my own home on the side so that it will help my creativity in my business. Not that I needed to remodel my home, but I was like, this will help my business. And now I've committed to both sides of it. So, for example, I had 2 weeks off. So I decided to build my kids a chicken coop. So I built that from the ground up for them. And it gave me an epiphany with some lighting design that I wanted to do while I was doing that. So not just if you're always in the same room looking at the same four walls, you're not going to get a lot of inspiration.
Yep.
And so I try to push myself completely outside of what I know and do, which is, for example, building chicken coops. I didn't know anything there is to know about chickens or coops or any of that stuff. I had to learn it, all of it. So now I'm pushing my mind in a different direction, learning new things. And by doing that, I stumble across new experiences, new designs, new thoughts, new exposure. So that really helps me in my business, especially when you walk into a room, say like a grand ballroom in the Four Seasons, and there's 12 people in there and they're doing like a 600 person gala, and you're in charge of hosting it and doing all the lighting design and DJing it. And they're looking at you, well, what's the floor plan going to be like? What do you think? They'll just stare at you. You better come up with something good, And I'm not one to, I don't 3G model, 3D model it and send it off and get approval. Like I'm very much in the moment. I create, and that's what I love to do. And so, for example, that event happened recently, and so I did that in the moment. I was like, hey, every event you guys have had in here has had a stage up front, had draping behind that, and you fanned out all the tables and their dance floor, off to the corner. Said if the whole thing is about a star, which it was, like the Starlight Soiree, I think it was. So we built a giant star out of pixel tubes or out of lighting tubes, hung it on the back, turned the dance floor into a giant diamond in the middle of the room, wrapped the whole thing around with tables, and then I put my DJ booth, which is clear, in the center of the dance floor, and then put surround sound around the entire room. So now there's no front, there's no side, there's no back, there's no forward. Like everything is everywhere. And the emphasis was then you're all the star. You guys are the stars because you're here coming to, raise money for this or that. But it's just a flipping design and creating something different. And I got that idea from something I was doing on the treehouse. So
wow,
pushing myself out of the norm, I was able to go and then create this massive event floor plan. And they did it. They agreed. They listened. They heard me, and they made it happen. And they were just like, wow, this is really cool. And the cool thing was, in the moment, when the dance party started, after they'd made a ridiculous amount of money, people never got up and danced previously, but because the DJ's in the middle of the floor and all the tables are around the dance floor, there's no one just standing out all by themselves. You're immediately on the floor. It's just a different, unique experience to have it centered like that. So it was cool.
that's awesome. Like, do you have an actual favorite event that you've done to date, or is it they're just all so different where you're like, oh, I don't really have a favorite, or is there that one that just stands out so much that you're like, how am I going to top this?
Well, my wife and I, because we get to do a lot of these together, there's a handful of events every year that we get to really work the entire event together, because she can't, she can't always come to every single wedding because she runs the business in the background. So I'm usually at the events. So my favorite events are the ones that she gets to come with me. And the one event in particular that I feel like was my all-time favorite event that we got to do was, we've done the Knot Gala several years, and one year in particular worked with an amazing team. That year, Emily Clark Design was the designer. She was the planner for it, and she let me basically design the whole back third of the gala. They opened up a room they usually don't open, and they were like, okay, we'll have the dance floor here, we'll have the bar here, we'll do the lounge over here, and then maybe some photo booth over here. So all four corners. And I was like, well, if everyone's coming to hang out and talk and dance and drink and conversate, why don't we make everything all the time? So she, kind of the same idea, actually, she let me do, she totally was like partnering and like pushed it and was like, yes, this would be amazing. And so we did the DJ booth in the center of the room, and the floral designers built this like hoopah, flower, tornado, rose craziness all around me. And then right below that was a full wraparound 4-sided bar. And then right beyond that, around the entire bar, was all dance floor around the entire room. And the outside perimeter was the photo/lounge area all the way around that. So everywhere you were was the photo booth, the bar, and the dance floor. And it was so cool to DJ in that environment where everyone in every direction was on the same vibe, and dancing and partying and collaborating and having those, let's do moments where, hey, let's do this and let's do that. And they're creating and being creative. I love creating the moments where people can do that. So that was probably my favorite. There was a catch to that, which I didn't realize in the moment. Once you climb up in this tornado rose flower petal thing, you can't get out. So all night I'm just in this thing, just seeing everyone. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess the gala's over, and everyone left. And I was like, well, that was fun, I guess. Goodbye. I literally didn't see anybody. Oh, well.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny.
Like, do you feel like when, like, this past weekend we had an event and the setup was a little bit different, and because it's like a lot of our floor plans are pretty tight in terms of people over invite in the South. And, the client was like, where is this DJ going to go? Which is their friend who is not a wedding DJ. He's like an actual major sound producer who does all this special sound producing on all these, famous people. But he's really good friends with them. And he's like, I'll DJ your wedding. But I didn't really know like what I was walking into, and he didn't know what he was walking into. And so I'm like, when he gets there, I'm like, so you can go in the loft and look down over people, or there's like these built-in bars where you can go back there if you want to. And he's like, yeah, but I'm like disconnected from the dance floor. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know how you would feel about that.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just this, I don't normally do this anyway. And so he's like, I'm excited about putting my speakers upstairs, and I think it would be cool to like look over. He's like, let me just walk around and try to feel it out. So I'm like, you do your thing, whatever you want to do. Like, it doesn't matter to me. And so he, put some stuff upstairs, and then he went like between upstairs and the loft, and then he would run downstairs. And so he like used both spaces. And then like, he's like, I got to go get more cords, and I didn't plan for this. And he's like, do I have time for that? I'm like, yeah, you've got time. It's totally cool. I'm like, you do whatever makes you comfortable. But he was probably one of the funnest, like best, like scratching old school DJs. And I'm
fun.
like, so you don't do this?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't. I'm a sound producer and produce like records and, for top 40 and rap. And I'm like, well, you did an amazing job. And so, while we're working. And he just like pulled like the old stuff and the new stuff. And at the end of the night, he was like, thank you so much for like just letting me do me and not like dictating and telling me like what to do or how to do it, even though I'm not, full-time wedding DJ. And I'm like, but sound and music and how to get people out regardless if you were upstairs or downstairs. So do you ever get into those situations where it's like it doesn't really matter where you are in the room, you can still find a way to connect with your audience or connect with the people like where they need to be in the room? Or does that really matter?
Yeah, it definitely matters. I'm probably weird in that I like to be as absolutely close, even to the point where I'm physically on the dance floor, which is pretty extreme. I can do that because of how my booth is set up. It's very unusual, but it's because you're feeling the crowd, not necessarily watching the crowd. Because I usually don't even really look up very much. I'm not one to even get on the mic that much either. I'm communicating through music and lighting and projection. I'm not one of those who's like, hey, the next song is, and then plays the song and everybody's like, just play the song. And then we know what the song is. Like, you don't have to tell us. Stop talking. But yeah, so for me, I like to be as close as I can, but if there's always those like huge Indian weddings where they've done all the floor plan and it's incredibly designed, and they're like, oh yeah, the DJ, yeah, you're going to be down the hall in LaGuardia Airport in Concourse C. That's where you'll be. I'm like, what? Like, how far away from the dance floor can you put me?
Right.
So yeah, it'll be at least 90 to 100 feet away, and I have no idea what's happening. None. So I'm like, have we had first dance? Can anyone see? Are they finished dancing? Should I just keep playing the song? Like, so there has to be that balance. And I always work with planners, and thankfully the planners that we work with regularly, they get it and they're on point, and they know design well. They know layouts. There's not a oh snap moment that happens for us too much anymore, where we walk into a room and they're like, oh yeah, you're going to be here. Like, yeah, of course. What were you planning on having? So thankfully hasn't been an issue for us in a long time.
But also going back to, you have almost like created that. So it's like the DJ's like not an afterthought, it's like, oh, well, it's this person and this company, so they're going to bring it and they need to be right in the middle of it. So yeah, I know
our clients, they call us, they want us. It's not we just need a DJ.
Right. Because you're getting that whole experience.
Correct. It's totally different. We just need a DJ people. I just send them to other companies who just need a DJ. Like, I'm totally frank about that. I'm not hurt at all. Like, I want to make sure that that's what they're wanting. That's their expectation. But there are those clients that, no, we really care and we want the best, and you better bring it, like, or we'll come after you. Like, those people, those are my kind of people, because that's how I am. Like, if you're going to do something, do it right. So it's easy for me to relate to them in that way.
That's awesome. So with you guys both being in the business and doing the business together and then having kids, like, where do you find the balance? Like, do you ever turn it off? Do you take turns? Like, how do you find like that work-life balance?
Everyone's always pushing for more work-life balance. Even if all you did was life, you would still feel unbalanced, like you weren't working enough, and vice versa. But I feel like everyone feels like maybe they do a good job. For example, we were just this past weekend, my wife and I took a vacation. We went up to the mountains. We went kayaking or whitewater rafting with some friends. Like, we took 3 days and just spent time together. And now this weekend, I'm taking my youngest daughter to a whole weekend of like a karate conference. She's really into karate, so I decided to start doing karate just so I could be with her and hang out with her and spend time with her. I didn't know anything about karate, so I'm just learning it.
That's awesome.
It's like just finding ways where how can I get involved at what they're passionate about, and I'll just do it. And then, so now I'm spending 3 days with her. Like, we're leaving in the morning and driving from Orlando up to North Carolina, just to spend time with them, because when we travel, which we travel a lot, we really try to bring them with us. And they've been with us for a lot of these trips. So they've been to about 42 states in 3 different countries.
Really?
And they're very well versed in, social atmospheres and restaurants and hotels, and how to order and how to, get room service and
That's
get
awesome.
towels by the pool. And, when it's always funny when we take them to restaurants, they're always like, "Do you need the kids menu?" And they're like, "We were hoping you had the squid ink pasta or just the clams tonight." They're like, "What?" "Well, just get the clams. That's fine."
Oh my gosh. So they like seafood.
They love seafood, yeah. But it's because we spend time with them as like people, and we travel. And there's a lot of these larger events that they get to come into early. Like, once we get it all set up, because they're like up in the room at the Four Seasons or whatever, they'll come downstairs and see the room and see the floral designer and meet the planner. And because I want to inspire them. And I'm really just trying to teach them whatever it is you're doing. I don't care what it is. If you want to go off and be like the number one veterinarian for sloths in the world, like, do that in a unique way that you're passionate about it and love it, and then do it to help people. And so I take them along and I show them, like, we're DJing and doing parties because we love these people. We want to care about them, and we want to pour love into them on what we consider as like one of their most important days. And if you get that day right, because everyone's watching and they're paying attention and they're looking and they're judging this couple based on this day, it's a big step for them in their life. So
yeah,
we care about that. So we want to show our kids, like, do that in your life, and you can do whatever you want to do. Like, push yourself. And if you want to build a chicken coop and out of nowhere, do it. Make it happen. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is inspire them and push them and motivate them by any means possible. So they're even homeschooled for that reason, so they can travel with us, which they do quite a bit.
that is awesome.
Ever.
Yeah, I tried the homeschooling thing with my niece and, a 16-year-old, and I'm like, I got this. Like, I can help them. And it's not that easy. Like, well, this lasted 8 months.
That's
I'm
tough.
like, go back to school. Yeah, it's just a different it's a different mindset. And so it's either like you get up and you have the initiative and you're proactive and you like make sure that you have all your stuff done, instead of like the excuse method of, well, I didn't get that assignment in my Google folder. And I'm like, no, this is not excuse time.
Yeah.
Like, this is, that's I could write a book on trying to like, how it's hard. Like, maybe it's just because they're teenagers. But
we tell our kids the same thing, like, even in work related, because they see it. They've gone to big events, all the pressure, they see the people show up. And then in the moment when they're in their classroom in the morning, like, oh, I didn't have that one thing. I'm like, so if I would have shown up to that event in California that you're with me at, and I'd forgot my DJ console, and I just walked in and was like, oh, sorry, I didn't have it. Like, I don't know. What do you think they'd say? They'd be like, well, we hate you, first off.
and
Like,
you're fired.
you're fired. Like, it's a big deal. And so you have to be prepared. You've got to know it. You can't just drive out to California and not be prepared. Like, you can't just get up and start your day and not be prepared. And so, I don't know, for us, we give them very tangible, like, this is going to translate into your life. You need to get this right. So
Yeah, so what, how do you guys, like, do you mainly get your clients all because someone experienced you all at an event, and then they come up and say, hey, we've got to have you, we've got to hire you? Like, walk us through and share that process, because I know we live in this digital world, but most of your clients probably don't live where you guys live because of, there's events all over the world. So how is that client interaction and that client experience and converting them into hiring you?
Yeah, probably about 30% of our weddings we actually do in Orlando, which is where we live, and the rest are either all the state of Florida or Texas or California or Mexico or New York, in Nashville even, and New Orleans. That's kind of our main areas that we go to. So how do you get a planner in New Orleans to call you, or a planner in California to call you? Uh, it's all about relationships. And so not just any relationships, not just building relationships with any planner or any venue in the world, like finding the people who are doing exactly what I was talking about earlier, which is they're really trying to do something completely different. Because I work in a very different way. It's not me and 12 people in a box truck. So when it's just me and my wife showing up with flight cases, they're like, wait a second, where's your crew? Like, I need them not to ask that question, like they have to understand, like, this is going to be completely different. We're going to do this on a different way. So yeah, that's not easy to do. It's hard to find those. There's very unique planners, and those are the ones who are actually very creative, and they really work outside of the box, and they typically aren't that, how do I put this gently? They're not trying to put themselves out on social media in a way to where it draws all the attention to themselves. I guess maybe I said that right. Yeah, they're very much about other people. And so those are the kind of things we look for. And we've also learned over time that our clients aren't the couples, which is very weird. I'm not marketing to brides. I'm not marketing to grooms. Like, I'm marketing to venues, to planners, to florists, to photographers, wholeheartedly and openly. And I tell couples that too. I'm like, you're not my client. You're not my return client.
Right.
You're my bride and my groom. Like, I'm going to pour into you guys. I'm going to love on you. And like tonight, it's all about you. My client on a regular is the people who are working for you. And they're like, what? I thought we signed the check. I'm like, yeah, you did. Thank you for that. But I'm never going to see you again. Like, I love you, but I don't know how it just happens. I'm sorry. And so these are the people who are going to see through all the BS because they see you on a regular. And if you don't impress them, they're just never going to call you back. It's easy. It's simple. Just, I don't like working with you. I move on. So making their experience just as good as the couple's experience, and they're watching the couple's experience as well. So if their couple's like, thanks for calling that goofball, like, our wedding was a disaster. Why did you send him to us? That matters. So you have to really work on both fronts. And I think a lot, especially DJs, they're notorious for just targeting brides, like 100% targeting brides. And then you show up the day of and they're complete jerks to everybody else in the room except for the couple, which is like the worst idea.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about? Like, all kinds of stories and all the debacles that happen. And they're missing the point. The way to grow your business is not through alienating yourself and just saying, I only deal with brides. It's everyone around you is referring people to you. You can hone that in and target the right people, which is done through genuine relationships and genuine time, not just a couple likes and a comment on social media. But like investing in them, like going to their house, talking to them, spending time with them. That's how it grows.
So yeah, I mean, really, it's funny is people like how they ask us the same thing, like, how do you get your business? And how does this? How's it? And it's like doing a good job and like,
That's
like, exceeding expectations and following up and following through and having good communication. And, to me, it's like, it's not that hard. But apparently it's not the norm. And so it's just, people are like, well, how do you get your business? I'm like, well, word of mouth, like, you do a good job. And then people will tell other people because they want that their friends and family to like have an amazing experience. And they know that it's not going to be copied or just like them because they know that we get inspiration from different places. So, and every couple is different. Like, they don't all want the same thing. Like, they may like something we did for someone else, but it's like, okay, that's cool that you liked that, but let's find out let's go deeper, and find out what really drives you. And create your experience, not copy somebody else's experience. So have you guys gotten to your goal with Dubai, and why Dubai?
Well, I mean, that was just one of the things we had thrown out there is like, well, let's do a ridiculous place. Like, who in Dubai is going to call us to come out and do parties? Like, that's unheard of.
Has anybody called you?
Yes, someone did actually. So next January, I'm going to Dubai for DJing parties for our rosé sponsor, because we have a rosé sponsor, which is also another ridiculous story. But yeah, they're like, oh, we're going to do a week-long conference. We need you in Dubai next January for that. And I'm like, wait, what? Why is it Dubai? He was like, oh, it's,
That's
so
awesome.
you're kind of the in-house DJ for us. And I was like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I'll work you in the schedule or something, Yes. Finally. But it's just making like that was sounded ridiculous to me in my head when I said that. Like doing, in south of France or off the coast of Italy or stuff like that, like creating whatever the most ridiculous goal is, like truly pushing that and preparing yourself for that and putting that out there. And it happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. But thank you so much. We got to wrap up because I got to go do another podcast. Thanks, guys. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to Business Unveiled. Be sure that you are subscribing to this podcast so you do not miss those notifications when the new podcasts come out. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with your friends. And I'm so very grateful if you leave a review. Be sure you are a subscriber so you never, ever miss the juicy details of Business Unveiled. Also, be sure that you are part of my email list. And if you're not, sign up today at angelaprofit.com, where I share valuable resources and exclusive products with only my subscribers. Now, before I go, I want to ask you, if you have a story or a product to share with the creative industry, please let me know. To be considered as a guest on Business Unveiled, visit angelaprofit.com and submit a podcast guest form. Until next time, remember to stay productive and profitable.
You've been listening to Business Unveiled with Angela Profit. Join us next time as we share our experiences to help you be more productive and profitable in your creative business. For more great resources, visit angelaprofit.com.